Hello there everybody, almightyzentaco here. Today we're going to be doing parallax scrolling. If you don't know what parallax scrolling is, that is when you have different layers and they scroll at different speeds from one another to create the illusion of depth. It's something that was done very frequently in like Super Nintendo games. And so since we typically work with 2D games, we're going to be trying to recreate the same effect. It's very simple. All you need to do is use some layers. And layers, if you've ever used Photoshop, you know what layers are. They're essentially layers. They're different Z hierarchies of objects and scenes and yada yada. Each layer can have different properties, and one of those properties is scroll speed. So first thing we're going to do is take a look at what we have now. Right now all I have is a little player object. He's a little bird and he can walk around on some bricks. So the first thing we need to do is to allow the screen to scroll. So we're going to create an always event, and we are going to center the horizontal position in relative to the X position of our player, and that will make the screen scroll. You also need to make sure that your frame is big enough to scroll. Here I just have the level of just a whole bunch of red bricks going on and on for a good deal of time. Okay, so we need to create more layers. You can do that with the new layer button here on the left. Now you need to keep in mind, we're going to move this layer back up here. The top layer, here I'll create a couple. Okay, this layer here at the top, and as it goes down, this is the Z hierarchy. The topmost layer here at the top of the screen is the layer closest to the player, and by the player I don't mean like the bird character, I mean the person playing the game. This is closest to the person at the keyboard, and as you go down here, these are further away. Okay, now if you look under the properties here, you have under scrolling options there is an X coefficient and a Y coefficient, and those are currently set to 1. That is the speed at which the level will scroll. 1 is normal speed. Anything less than 1 will be slower. Obviously, anything bigger than 1 is faster. So all we need to do this is to create some backdrops, throw them into these different layers, and change the scrolling coefficient. So another thing to keep in mind too, whenever you are working with layers, is once you are done with the layer, you probably want to lock it so you don't accidentally drop things on it or interact with it. So we're going to go to the next layer. I'm going to insert an object. I'm going to insert an active object, and all this is I'm going to use this to load a piece of art. I've got this background here. It's some green rolling hills. Now we're going to do something we haven't done before. We're going to use a quick backdrop object, and what that is a backdrop that can be tiled. Just by increasing the size, it'll just tile the piece of art indefinitely. So what we do to do that, we go under create here and we select quick backdrop object. Then we have to place it somewhere, so drop it right there. I'm going to delete this source object because I don't need it anymore. So if we click back on the quick backdrop, we just need to resize it. So we're going to set the height to 720 because that is the height of my frame, and then we're going to make it the width of the level, which is 12800, and you just need to resize that to be the size of your level. So let's go ahead and test that now. Okay, as you can see, it scrolls the exact same speed as the foreground. That's because we haven't changed the coefficient. So we're going to go to the X coefficient and set it to 0.5. You can also name these different layers if you want. I'm not going to do that, but perhaps you want to do that. It's up to you. Okay, as you can see, that now scrolls slower, and that creates the illusion of depth. So let's lock this layer, click on the next one, and do it again. Insert an active object, load the piece of art. This one's going to be a mountain, creating a backdrop from it, and resizing that backdrop. Okay, now we need to change the scroll speed of this layer. It needs to be smaller than 0.5. We want it to go slower than the last one, so we'll say 0.25. I'm going to lock that layer. And on the final layer, we are going to add some clouds. So I'm going to pull up my cloud piece of art, and I'm going to make a backdrop out of it. Create quick backdrop. Resize my backdrop. And this is honestly all you have to do. Okay, and finally we need to make it move slower. We'll say 0.05 maybe. Make it go really slow since that's the clouds and they're really far back there. Let's give it a shot. There we go. That's pretty convincing parallax scrolling. You can also change the Y coefficient of the parallax scrolling if you have upward, downward movement within your level. One thing to keep in mind, though, is if you come to the end of the piece of art, you are going to see, you know, just a straight line where it's cut off. So you want to make sure that the art that you're using is always scaled to be bigger than the viewport. You don't want it to ever, you don't want the player to ever come to the end of it. It'll look really bad. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's all you need to do to implement some parallax scrolling. So I hope that was useful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will try to get back to you guys. So everyone, you have a fantastic day.